episode of DrunkFriend. I am Alex, aka SNES Drunk, and once again you're stuck with me. Travis is off again. He has some actual, important stuff to do. Good for him. Everything's fine. He's fine. His family's fine. All that sort of stuff. So nothing bad, certainly. But you guys are left with me to flail around and as I stumble around and try and figure out what the heck I'm doing. I'm still new to this podcast thing, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. We did get a couple follow-up emails in response to last week. We got another email from William who asked about how to help us out, and we responded to him. He responded to us saying, I'll definitely do anything I can to help you guys grow. I love the YouTube channels and podcasts. Just know my car rides on Fridays are much more relaxed now because of you guys. And he says, on a side note, my wife Randy was never into video games ever. I actually got her into listening to SNES Drunk, and she actually enjoys it. What's with that? What does it take to get a shout out? It's really no big deal. Just throwing it out there. She wants me to help you guys through a Patreon bit if that's possible. Have a great day, William. Yeah, I'll have to throw in some kind of super awkward thing this character is acting like his name is William. He's a Navy veteran with a wife named Randy, or something like that, something ridiculous like that. Yeah, I'll try something. I'll work on it. We got another email from Grant, and this is a familiar name. That's what's really cool about this whole YouTube channel thing is I really get to these names become familiar to me as I see them. And he writes to us saying, "Hey guys, great job on the podcast. So the wrestling episode was really fun to listen to on my drive. I don't care about wrestling in the slightest, but a bunch of my friends do. So it reminded me of that. I remember Bam Bam Bigelow had green stripes in one of the NES games. The Legion of Doom," and he puts a parenthetical, "from a hat I had. And wondering why Hulk Hogan ripped his shirts." That's actually a good observation there. It's like, man, that guy goes through a lot of shirts. So, and he continues, "So my totally throwaway suggestion is to talk about monster trucks, a topic I care equally as little about, but lump with professional wrestling mentally. I know there's a Bigfoot NES game that I've never played, and there's lots of Gravedigger toys. It's a cool paint job. I'm sure you guys have lots of other, parenthetical, better topics to talk about, but that's just my 2 cents. Keep up the great work. GG." So I don't know anything about monster trucks at all. I remember my childhood friend Dustin was really into Bigfoot, the monster truck, and my other childhood friend Dan, his dad would take him and his brothers to the Metrodome to see Gravedigger and all those trucks. It was those commercials that come on, and it's it's always that same voice, that super deep voice that's like, "Kids get in free if adults pay $10. T-shirts only $15. It sounds ridiculous. I never went to that stuff. I just never got into it. I don't know. I was never a car guy. I was never a monster truck guy. So I don't know anything. So that means it's perfect to talk about. So maybe we'll tackle that subject. But thank you for that, Grant. Yeah, if anybody out there ever wants to write to the DrunkFriend podcast, please do write us at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com, and who knows, maybe we'll read your stuff on air. Actually, on air. I don't know why I said that. What the hell was that? I'm not ready to segue yet. What the hell's going on? Where's this music coming from? Come on, this is ridiculous. I don't know what this music is just popping into my feed somehow. It's getting around my security and my firewall, and somebody's there. Hello?
Whoa.
Who's this? What is this? What happened? Who am I talking to right now?
I'm Kulor. I hear that song. It sounds very familiar to me.
For some reason.
Oh, this is Kulor.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Okay. Get that one. Okay.
Oh my god, what the hell's happening?
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
All right.
What's up?
All right. What's up, man?
My name is Kulor.
Your name is Kulor.
Yes.
And you're the fellow that was nice enough to lend us your music. No, I shouldn't say lend,
Well.
but we but we made an agreement that you would use your music. It's called Electric Star Bounce, to introduce and play the outro to our podcast. A lot of people like it, and I personally, when I first heard it, I was like, this is perfect. Like, this is like happy, bouncy. Is there anything about that particular track you can talk about? Or
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That track in particular was it was really fun to make. Usually, so for me, unfortunately, sometimes the process of making music is not always the most fun thing in the world. And that was one of the few times where I just like cranked through the entire song and just had a lot of fun doing the entire thing. It was also the first time I ever like fully produced a track for the Commodore 64 sound chip, which is like my #1 favorite sound chip of all time. So I had a lot of fun making that track. It's actually kind of funny because I was still very much a novice at like it. The Commodore 64 has a really expansive but really weird sound chip, and trying to use an editor for it, it's pretty easy to get lost in it. It's a very technical kind of editor, and I didn't know how to make notes stop. So
they would just resonate and keep going.
Yeah. So what I did, instead of putting like, normally I would just tell a note to, shut up and stop playing.
Right.
What I did for that song is instead I would just put other sound effects in the same sound channel, and they would just cut off the note. So you can actually hear all the little like weird little bloop, bloop, bloop kind of sounds. Those actually cut off the notes so they don't ring on for too long.
So that was necessary in order to like, otherwise everything would just be a huge mess.
Yeah, it was necessary at the time because I had no idea what I was doing. But
yeah. So could you like, what's the solution to that? Do you make a sound effect that's nothing but silence to stop it? I mean, I guess you could.
So, well,
that would be my solution.
So there's no like technical reason why you can't stop a note. I just didn't know how to do it. Like later I figured out how to do it, and I was like, oh, it's obvious. But
oh yeah,
yeah, at the time.
I like the track a lot because I don't know if you're familiar with the game B-52. B spelled B-E-E.
I love B-52.
Yeah, the NES. It reminds me of that game, and that game has some of the craziest music I've ever heard in any video game. Anybody out there listening, go check out B-52 soundtrack. B is in the insect, B.
Yeah, and B-52 is actually like probably my favorite unlicensed game. Like I love that game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Codemasters game, and it's published by Camerica, so it's unlicensed. It's on Commodore 64 too. I actually didn't know that. I just looked it up right now. And
it is, yeah.
C64.
It's a little bit different. The C64 version, it actually, so like if you're familiar at all with the game, it like the NES one starts you off kind of in a backyard, and then later on you go into like this kind of pond area. The C64 one actually starts you off in the pond, and it's also way harder. Like I haven't been able to actually get farther than that in the C64 one.
Yeah, I actually am not familiar with the game. I just know the music. Like that's how like huge the soundtrack has been for me for the past several years. There's certain games like that for some reason that are like, I think of the music first before I think of like Waterworld for Super Nintendo is like that too.
I don't even know what that game plays like, but I love that soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are certain games like that just stand out. So how did you first get into creating music via sound chip the way that you do?
Well, basically I'm a gigantic nerd and have always, for whatever reason, wanted to make music on like the NES. And so the way it started, I started writing music when I was like 14, 13, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, there were ways to make like 8-bit music back then, but they were really, you couldn't really find them very easily.
So when you were that age, it would have been like late 90s?
Oh, that would have been early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah. So we're talking Cool Edit, we're talking Fruity Loops.
Yeah, actually, Fruity Loops was pretty cutting edge. I didn't even have that. What I had was a program called Anvil Studio, and what that is it's
That rings a bell.
you can still get it. It's like a free MIDI editor that it's just super like Windows 98 style, like really basic looking. But
Was it shareware
uh,
or freeware?
it's like I think it's freeware, but they have like a bunch of plugins that you have to buy if you want to do like expansive stuff with it. But I never, you don't really need to buy them to make MIDIs.
Yeah. Do you by chance remember Hammerhead from back then?
Hammerhead.
It was a free drum machine, and it was like the cheapest, crappiest drum machine ever.
That doesn't ring a bell.
It was so bad, and I played guitar, and I wanted to be like in a metal band, but nobody I knew ever knew how to play drums. So I programmed drums on this thing, and it just sounded so pathetic and just so bad.
Nice.
So yeah, it's like the most like Windows 98 thing ever. It's just super cheap. It's super easy to use. It only goes like 2 measures. Like it's just pathetic. But yeah, so you glommed onto like some of the early programs from then. Yeah, and you just kept learning.
Yeah, so back then, I mean, it was basically I was able to make MIDIs, and that was it. So MIDIs, a lot of people aren't really aware of what a MIDI is exactly. And basically what it is it's just it's kind of an open, like, how to explain it? It's kind of like just a collection of notes, and then a collection of like generally what kind of instrument you want those notes to go to. Like, for example, you might have one track that's like a piano track and one track that's like a guitar track, but it doesn't actually say anything about what the piano or the guitar sound like. So you can pass a MIDI to any number of different things, and then, if that thing can play back a MIDI, it'll have its own piano or guitar sounds that it'll use to play those tracks.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what kind of sounds you already have on your computer. It's just going to trigger what you have, or I should say, it doesn't matter what you record them with or what you write them with.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on who you send the file to, it's going to use whatever's native to that.
Yeah.
Whatever is on your computer. I did not know that. I learned something today. That's really cool.
And back then, basically, there was like I was just making MIDIs with whatever. Like I think there's like 128 different instruments you can pick from in the MIDI standard. And one of those instruments was called Lead 8 Bass Plus Lead. And on my computer at the time, it was kind of not really, but very vaguely kind of like a square wave type of NES type of sound. So what I did was, in my desire to make chiptunes, I would create MIDIs using only that instrument and like drums, and then call them like Atari songs. And that was my foray into chiptunes, I guess.
Right on.
I did that for a couple of years, I think, actually, before I discovered, I want to say about 2006, I discovered a tracker, which is, in case anybody listening is not aware, a tracker is basically a program that it's kind of like Microsoft Excel, but you make music with it. So it's like a list of notes that it goes down, and you just have to fill out that list, and that's how you make music. And I discovered one of these programs for an actual Atari computer. It's actually the Atari 8-bit computers from like the early 80s.
Sure.
They had a sound chip called the Pokey, and trackers are not made to be user friendly. They're made to be
just
like,
gonna say user friendly.
Yeah, they're made to be like powerful. And
right.
One day, when I was still in high school at the time, I think I was in my computer science class, and like already did my assignment. I was just sitting around for almost 2 hours, completely bored. So I just sat down with the tracker and figured out how to make it make sound, and that was kind of where I started.
Sweet.
After that, discovered Famitracker, which is it's a very popular program for making NES music.
Right.
Went from there.
What was the first, or I should say, who was the first artist that you discovered that was making this kind of music just for fun back in the day?
So, it was back then, man. That was like 2000. I want to say about 2004. I really discovered chiptunes, and it was a complete accident how I discovered them, because I wandered onto some C64 fanatics website, and he was saying something like how, Nintendo music is so dumb. Us C64 guys, we had the real music. Just listen to these Rob Hubbard tunes. They're so much better. And I was like, okay, that sounds fake, but okay, let's see. And it turns out Rob Hubbard actually on the C64, like, he was kind of a monster. He was really good at making tunes. And I got really hooked on listening to these, old 1980s era Rob Hubbard C64 type of music. And that was when I discovered a bunch of other people from way back in the day. Martin Galway, Tim Fallon, of course.
Yeah, Tim Fallon's a big one.
Yeah, Ben Daglish. And so for a while, I was pretty much just listening to C64 game music from back in the day. Damn. And that was like, it was through that I discovered the NES chiptune scene at the time, which was very basic, because like Famitracker didn't even exist when I first started getting into this stuff. I think the first version of Famitracker that I used was like version 0.2, which is ancient, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty primitive. Yeah,
it didn't start existing until I want to say 2005 or 6 maybe. But back then, when I first started listening to chiptunes, the only way to make music was with an old DOS program called Nerd Tracker 2. And there were a handful of people that were putting out tunes, including Memblers, who I think is still around making music. Like, I think he's in Japan. Actually, he might have some songs in, what is that NES homebrew game, Kira Kira Star Night? I think he's doing.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a really cool game. If you look up the deluxe version, it's got a lot of really cool like parallax scrolling.
Oh dang. Okay.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
I've never even heard of that.
But one of the other ones.
Go ahead.
One of the other ones that I had discovered back in the day was Chibi Tech, and she is kind of the like master of NES music. Like, she's been pumping out impossible songs on the NES since.
The name rings a bell.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've linked it before.
Her big gimmick back then was, and probably still these days, was making the NES sing. So, like, just using the synthesizer channels on the NES, she'd like make, as convincing of lyrics as you could hope for from the NES. Wow. Like, it's pretty incredible. But she had this cover of like, it was like the title to a porn game called Miko Miko Nurse. And there was like a Flash
Nurse, of course.
Yeah. There was like a Flash movie that was popular at the time. Well, I don't actually know if it was popular, but it was like this just mashup of early 2000s Photoshop plus Miko Miko Nurse. So yeah. I had actually, like, I was aware of this song, and then when I heard the NES cover, it just blew my mind. I was like, you can make this thing sing? What? So
yeah, that's really crazy. Yeah, the NES of all things.
Yeah,
that's nuts. So the way people can reach your music, including the song that you hear in the podcast, is through cooler.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
Your latest collection, or album, I should say, is Nebs and Debs.
Yes.
And so tell us a little about that and what went into that.
Yeah, Nebs and Debs is one of, or the latest in a number of NES homebrew games that I've done the score for. It was a really great project, really cool game by Chris. Oh God, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Chris Cacciatore.
Yeah, I'm looking at his name now, and I'm like, Cacciatore. It's Caccia.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris. But yeah, it's a really cool game. It was made for the NES Dev. They do kind of a yearly competition, and I think, yeah, Nebs and Debs got second place in the one
Whoa.
that we entered. It was like the 2018 one, I think. Might have been 2019. I can't remember. But yeah, the cool thing about that game and all of the other games made for this NES Dev competition is it actually is baseline NES specs. So if you know anything about like NES hardware, the baseline system is actually not really capable of very much, to be honest. Like,
That's what I've read.
yeah, probably.
And by read, I mean based on what like you and our other Discord mod Lewis.
Yeah,
Is it Lewis or Louis?
it's Lewis.
It's Lewis. Okay. Yeah, based on what you guys have said, it seems like there's a lot. The NES is extremely limited.
It's very, very limited.
Yeah.
The most games used some form of expansion chip. But the NES Dev Compo, they like all of the games made for that aren't allowed to use expansion chips. So it's baseline NES.
Sure.
So we were kind of trying to squeeze the absolute best like graphics and sound and gameplay out of what is essentially the same hardware configuration as Super Mario Brothers, like the original, was running.
Right.
And yeah, working on a project like that, I mean, Chris basically reached out to me because
I'm curious. Does he give you any direction, or does he tell you like what kind of mood? Do you play the game beforehand, or how does that work?
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like, he reached out to me when like he had heard years and years before that I scored a game called Alter Ego, and it seems like most people know me from scoring that game, and that's how most people reach out to me to score other games. But he had heard that one and said, "Hey, do you want to score this game?" And I was like, "Sure." And originally, man, I honestly can't remember how that project started, because I think he already had a playable alpha with like a level, and it just didn't have music. And I mean, basically what I did was I sketched out something that was like, a couple seconds long, and I sent it over, and I was like, "What do you think of this?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's keep going with it," and fleshed it out. And that's
really cool.
That ended up kind of being the like the level 1 theme.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, so for a game like that, you have a lot of constraints. And in particular, I want to say the entire game code and all of the maps and pretty much everything that's not the graphics, including the sound effects and the music, has to fit in 32 kilobytes on the cartridge.
Right, yeah, because there's like a narrow pathway or something like that, or how does that work exactly? It's some sort of NES limitation that I know of.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like one of the few technical things that I know about the NES.
It's basically the way that it's wired up. Like the CPU that the NES uses is the 6502. It's a 8-bit processor with a 16-bit address bus, which basically means it can look at up to 64 kilobytes at a time. But on the NES, a number of those kilobytes have to be kind of like pushed away for other things. Like you have to have your system RAM, which is 2 kilobytes. You have to have a number of like hardware registers, which are basically just special areas in memory that let you control certain things, like putting sprites on the screen or changing the way that sounds are being produced or things like that. And just the way that they wired it up, by default, I believe the NES can only look at 32 kilobytes in a cartridge. So the way that they made cartridges bigger than that was they put in expansion chips. They and those expansion chips would let you basically swap out which 32 kilobytes were being looked at a time. Now I might
so it's not loading everything all in the same thing. It's all at once. It's only loading a certain amount when it's needed, basically.
Does
that sound right?
Basically, yeah. But with with just an original NES cartridge with no expansion chips, you're only looking at that single 32 kilobytes. So that's your lot. So I'm not an NES developer, so I might be completely off base, actually. So, but so most of the game, like most of the that 32 kilobytes that is the entire cartridge, is used up by the code that the game needs to run, and the just other aspects of it, like the levels, things like that. So at the end of the day, I was only given something like 7 kilobytes to make the entire soundtrack. And trying to
just 7?
Just 7 kilobytes.
Jeez.
So there were a lot of things like
we had a lot of ideas.
What is that sound? What the hell's happening? Oh God! Are you? No. What is that?
We had a lot of ideas, but
I don't understand. Wait. What's happening? No! What's happening? Jerry Seinfeld voice. I don't know what's happening. Insecure, so I had to bring my girlfriend Pearl in to talk me down. Is everything gonna be okay? I need somebody to tell me it's gonna be okay.
Probably not.
Well, that's very reassuring. Thank you. So you have been playing. Listen, okay, I need to explain something to the audience. Final Fantasy VII is your favorite thing, period. You're nodding, and now you're shaking your head no.
I'm not that much of a nerd. I have plenty of favorite things.
No. I'm going on the record and saying Final Fantasy VII is your favorite thing.
It is one of my favorite things.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the remake? Because you grew up with the original, and a lot of people are upset about certain stuff about the remake. You know, the nitpickers and the actually police and all those people. What do you like best about it, and what would you like to improve about it?
Well, actually, I am one of those people, so it's terrible. But at the same time, I'm fairly diplomatic. So it's conflicted but positive.
That's good.
Yeah, I ask myself one question when playing video games. Am I having fun? Do I look forward to playing it? And so playing this game, yes, I do. Is it exactly like the original? Absolutely not. I get vague senses of the nostalgia factor. And maybe that's because of viewpoint. When you play the original, you really do have that overhead view.
Oh, you get locked into certain viewpoints where you get nostalgic for, like, you know, they're like matte paintings in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're playing the original,
and that's not here at all.
Yeah, you're kind of doing more of
you're in the
third person, so everything looks smaller. You're seeing your immediate surroundings versus this landscape. You're
in the matte paintings.
Right. So I really enjoy that, but it still doesn't. It's very different from playing the original. And when I played the original, I was around 11 or 12 years old, and it was my first RPG, so I really didn't have anything to measure it with. I was used to Mario Brothers and SNES games at the time, so it was really different to have kind of a movie.
Extra Innings.
Extra Innings. That was a special case when I played Extra Innings with my older brother.
I have that cartridge right back here. We can play it anytime you want.
I did give Alex the actual Extra Innings was a baseball game, kind of cartoonish, but you were able to name your players. And when you're an elementary school kid, dirty names are the absolute most hilarious type of comedy you can possibly.
Hey, when the bases are loaded, in the bottom of the 9th inning, and shit is coming to bat.
Oh, shit was classic. That was, you wanted that man. So you're able to alter the stats. You're able to choose your players and bench your players. So I remember lending that game to a friend of mine, my best friend at the time when I was in middle school, and she would complain to me that your team that you guys created is the only team worth playing, but I can't play this team in front of my mom. If she walks in and sees some of the names of the players, she's gonna turn it off, and it was really terrible. Alex just recently cleaned it out and booted it up.
I can't say some of the names on this podcast, otherwise I would have to name it as explicit. The worst we can do is shit.
That's what we can do.
That's the worst we can do.
We had even ones that were specifically creatively disgusting. It was terrible.
It was pretty bad.
And I don't remember. All I remember is when me and my brother were naming the team, we kept thinking of ideas, and he'd enter it in, and we'd almost pee our pants laughing because of how inappropriate and filthy it was. And now it's just offensive. You're old, you're tired. You see they don't make any sense. They're not that funny, but...
Don't let this dissuade you from thinking Extra Innings is a bad game and that you need colorful names to make Extra Innings a good game.
You do.
No, you don't. Extra Innings is a really good game. It's a good baseball game.
Give them filthy names. That's my advice.
Boo. Okay. Well, we got off track.
Yeah.
What do you want to change? What do you wish was different about Final Fantasy Remake? What's your biggest nitpick?
My biggest nitpick? That's hard to say because I'm still in the middle of it. It takes a while. I am probably 2/3 done with it. I've been kind of portioning it out because I've waited so many years, and everybody else who's waited the same amount of time can say it was painful and ridiculous. And once they announced a vague release date, that we didn't believe them. And sure enough, they delayed it a month.
Yeah, just to fuck with you.
Just to mess with you. Yeah, they're I think the music, and I think that's a good thing because it's not one of the most you're used to that, what is it, 16-bit?
No, in the case of PlayStation, it wouldn't have been any bit. It would have been just an arrangement. It would have been just CD music. But no, it would have been in the original music.
Right. They get a little too creative because they have, I think, a mix of every theme.
They have at least like 3 mixes of every, like Tifa's theme, Aerith's theme, Cloud's
right.
theme. Yeah.
And it takes you out because you're used to these more simplistic melodies.
Yeah.
And so they make them a bit more complex. And the music is really what made the game. And you're going to get tons of, well, actually, it had nothing to do with the music. And I somewhat agree, but it was a big part. So I think when you get music that's a little bit more, or that's closer to the original, you can feel that nostalgia as you're playing. But a lot of the songs are changed, a lot of the music is different, but it's charming in its own way. So I think when they announced it and they said, or at least the original writers and directors and producers said this is going to be different, they really didn't mean it. So you are going through the same storyline. One of the biggest complaints is that there's a lot of filler, and I think that is kind of the theme with
well, filler, some people see it as filler, other people see it as fan service, I would think, right?
No, when I talk about filler, I'm talking about
You're talking about typical RPG filler.
No, I would say RPG filler is random battles and...
See, I would bring up fixing the bridge in Lufia, but you don't know what I'm talking about.
Going back and forth, do you mean like...
Yeah, just
backtracking?
Like fetch quests, yeah.
Fetch quests, yeah. That is what you're talking about? Filler in...
In this game?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
You're you're gonna spend 10 hours so you can hey, the kids are missing, look around town. So it's not a terrible thing. It makes you explore things. It kind of guides you through the storyline. Another maybe I think a big complaint is that when you see some of the side characters, not even side characters, but just regular NPCs, they don't quite look like the main characters.
You have pointed this out many times.
So you're talking to a random random character that's going to give you a quest, and they look like a regular person, which is not like your characters. Your characters are a really great merge of the original anime style, and then you have the realistic viewpoint of how can we give these cartoon characters regular proportions. And they did really well, I think. I really do like the character designs. I know there's can I say this? Everybody hates it. Don't add gate to everything. It's just a damn hotel. But Tifa gate or boob gate.
You gonna talk about Tifa's boobs?
Oh, everyone did back when she was released. So they really are great. They're proportional. They're wonderful. They're big.
I'm not gonna argue.
Oh yeah. So to give you a little bit of SNES drunk in his human form, we were drinking and I was playing.
What are you going into? I'm just kidding.
You can edit. We're not doing this live.
Do it live. Fuck it.
So maybe this is for your 5 female viewers. Out of 100, your 5% female audience, your 2%.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was talking about Tifa and Aerith.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a kid, I didn't have access to the internet. Yeah. And I really wanted to point this out, so I want him to include this into his podcast. But I was talking about how as a young girl, 11, you're looking for female role models. And so my first RPG where you get female characters who aren't badasses, but also, aren't, Princess Peach. So it really had an impact on me, especially because you had 2 great heroines for Final Fantasy VII. And
you really did, yeah.
That's really rare. You have Tifa, which is a martial artist, yet she's shy and demure.
Yeah.
And then you have Aerith, which you can call maybe your typical princess-like character. She has a heritage that's mystical. She's magic. She's really weak physically. And then you have the opposite with Tifa, where she's stronger physically, but her personality is demure, and Aerith's personality is straightforward and flirtatious. And I love them both. They made such a great impact.
Tifa more.
I do. I did love Tifa more, and if it's just the combat style that was really novel and fun for me, or her whole characterization in general, her whole storyline is what really drew me to her. But Alex always teases me when I'm playing the game, and he asks me, "Oh yeah, Aerith, are you really pissed off right now?" I didn't know that was a thing until I was in my 20s and on the internet and realized, hey, if you want to learn more about Tifa, you're going to figure out how much people hate Aerith, and if you want to know more about Aerith, pick a side. So and it's all shipping, and I'm sure your fans are familiar with shipping, but it really is the most toxic nature of a game that tries to be a little bit complex when it comes to romance. So I wanted to mention the fact that it really is great that you have these diverse female characters. You even have Yuffie, which is kind of a more juvenile, fun, lighthearted character.
Right.
They're all attracted to Clyde. Clyde's right here. I'm attracted to Clyde.
Are you attracted to Clyde?
SNES drunk audience is attracted to Clyde. No, Cloud. We occasionally call him Cloud, but
only because he responds to Cloud.
He does, and
really
Floyd.
Funny. And Floyd
So
the dog.
yeah, I really, and I want you to include this. So I'm playing Final Fantasy VII. Alex is teasing me, comes in, he's like, "You gotta admit, Aerith is cute." Of course she's cute.
What did I say? I don't even remember doing
Yeah, you had like 5 whiskeys. It was, and I'm looking at him like, of course she's freaking adorable. That's her character. She has an amazing voice actress. I'm playing. Yes, I am kind of a weeb, and I'm playing the
Japanese.
Yeah, the Japanese version because I just don't think that their body language doesn't match the English voice actors, and I think the English voice actors did a great job. I really like them, especially in the promos, but it's still a bit off. So Alex comes in. He tells me, you gotta admit Aerith is cute, and I'm just looking at him like, I don't have a problem with her. I'm not like that. I remember one of my favorite things as a kid was a love triangle. I didn't like just 2 characters.
Pick a side.
No way. One of the best points is leaving. And if you have any Final Fantasy VII fans, if you leave with the 2 girls in your party from Calm right after you leave Midgar, Barrett comes up to you, he looks at you, he looks at the 2 girls, and he says something along the lines like, typical, because I take them with me. Yeah. And I always did until, big spoiler, she died, which was terrible.
Oh my gosh, you just spoiled the game for everybody. Whoa, gosh.
They've changed things. If she dies again...
Wait a second, don't spoil it, don't spoil it, we gotta get to... Speaking of the actually voice, we need to... Okay, so, transition. Good transition here. Okay, so a lot of people really enjoyed the fact that I did a certain voice on a video. What the hell was the video? Something about hardest Super Nintendo games that aren't that hard. And as part of the introduction of that video, I said something like, yeah, it's... you're always going to have these people that are going to be like, well, actually, I put 3,000 hours into Hagane, and it's a simple matter of putting the practice in. And it's like, people really enjoyed that voice, and I got a bunch of comments saying, like, yeah, I know somebody that sounds like that. Guess what? I stole that voice from Pearl, and she's the one. But you get that voice from the Simpsons character. I remember we were talking one morning about it, and we were hashing it out. We were trying to figure it out. Was it from Conan O'Brien? No. Was it from Futurama? No. And it turns out it was from the Simpsons. And it's the guy with he's like talking about calculus classes or something like that. And he kind of has a voice like this. And so that, I think that's where she got it from. And so but she took it to another level, to like a Conan O'Brien style level. So we thought it would be fun to take certain comments. These are real, actual comments from the SNES Drunk channel that I took to, that we can read in the Well Actually voice. Go ahead.
Comment number 1. Well, actually, the Quintet games are ActRaiser 2, Soul Blazer, Illusions of Gaia. Though this is debated as a game was made as a collaboration with Square, and they heavily influenced it. And finally, Terran and Gima, and their stories are interrelated, but in a Souls-esque twist, you have to read between the lines to find those connections.
Yeah, that's a real comment I got, that someone thought that every Quintet game ever was related somehow in a Souls-esque twist. Yeah.
Oh, shit, you need to make me... I gotta read the second because it mentions Limbo.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, I was completely blown away by Limbo, seeing the promos, so I have to read this comment. Well, actually,
when playing Limbo, I forget that I'm playing a game because the gameplay is so shallow and insultingly easy. Fuck this goth teenager fetishization of depression bullshit.
You better believe when I get that comment, that's the voice I hear it in my head. Okay, it's my turn now. Well, actually, as someone who has beaten the hard mode hack of Secret of Mana where everything kills you in 2 hits or so, Secret of Mana is not a hard game.
Beautiful. We're gonna keep going, apparently.
Keep going. Let's go. We got like 7 of these.
I'm swallowing the spit. And mind you, do not, if you have some hardcore D&D friends, do not use this voice. They will kick you out so hard. I have a friend who's big into D&D.
You should tell that story, yeah. You were actually using that voice.
Oh, yeah. So one of my friends, and, you know, he is just your absolute stereotype of your D&D gamer, and you know, I love the guy, so I'm not gonna give you those stereotypes. They're mean and rude, and he doesn't listen to this, so I can get away with it. Anyways, he did invite me to play D&D, and so I thought, hey, let's do it. I love video games, I love manga, I love anime, so let's do this. And it was so infuriatingly slow, and I realized what a goddamn casual I am. I am a filthy casual, and that's okay because it's so slow. And we had just, can I say this, a Nazi of a DM? Yeah, he was pretty bad. Or good? I don't know. I just get drunk and eat chips. But yeah, I used that voice every time I rolled everything, and I swear to God, at some point, every single player said that I was going to go home, and I said, well, what do I have to roll to go home? What kind of roll lets me call my mom? I'm searching through their D&D with chip grease stained hands through their like $300 D&D game manuals. It's pretty obnoxious. If any of you are hardcore D&D gamers, I completely understand why you don't let casuals into your game. They're terrible.
I'm terrified of joining any D&D game.
It takes like 15 minutes to open a damn door. And then I created this magnificent D&D character. He was a dwarf named Crumbles. He was beautiful. He had a backstory. I gave him a personality. I gave him absolute passion.
El Pasión.
El Pasión, my friends. And they decided to use him when I wasn't there. Apparently, I wasn't invited to many other games after that, but they needed a dwarf. And he died of a heart attack. R.I.P. Crumbles. They were not...
Come on, boo!
He never died because they were playing a farce. You cannot play Crumbles without me.
Yeah.
And he'll be resurrected one day if I ever have the patience to play D&D and I have people who don't hate me. One day. So let's get on with the next comment. Please edit this. I'm sure your fans really, really do understand how obnoxious this is.
No, I think they're actually enjoying.
You can't speak for them. You don't know them. You don't know their lives.
The D&D folks out there, and they're out there, they're enjoying this. Okay, am I up? Okay, well, actually, yes, the Mega Man X is pretty easy by comparison to other SNES games, and it is objectively easier than arguably any of the original Mega Man games on the NES.
Wonderful. It's good to know. So, let's move on to our next comment.
Well, actually, most people claim a game is hard because they haven't figured out the discipline required to learn it. Honestly, even Hagane isn't that difficult. And I was surprised to see it mentioned. Although the last boss is kind of irritating.
That's a little bit humbling.
No, it's not.
Actually,
no,
comments.
it's not. Hagane is the hardest freaking game on the Super Nintendo. I could get like maybe 12 people to say that Hagane is the hardest game on the Super Nintendo.
You can get poor.
An army of people, rise with me. No, don't do that. Don't rise. Just stay where you are.
They don't rise.
They don't rise. They're gonna chill.
I don't rise. People associated with you do not rise.
Please stay where you are. I don't.
All right. Is my interview done? Is your filler, hey, last resort, let's get my girlfriend on because she plays a game every now and again. Let's get her on.
Go back to playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Back to the TV with you. I'm just kidding.
All I need is if you can come together and ask him to buy me. And I know it's overpriced. I know it's 5 hours, but Resident Evil 3 with Carlos. I did want to say more useful things about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I did not have them planned.
Oh, okay. Well,
you should have gave me better questions. I blame my interviewer.
Okay, well, maybe we'll have you on again after you finish the game. If you finish the game, because Pearl has a bad habit of never finishing games.
Absolutely bullshit.
She doesn't want to have things end.
Invalid. He thinks that because I leave a little bit of water in my water
No,
glass.
you said this yourself. You don't want this game to end.
But I end them, mind you.
Do you?
I do. And so
Prove it.
Okay. So I do not play a new game without finishing my last game, which is rare. It's rare.
Evil Within 2.
I finished it. I finished the entire thing.
No, you didn't.
I finished most. I'm done with it.
Are you?
Yes.
What was the one you didn't finish? There's one you didn't finish. Oh, what was? Or no, you got stuck on the mini game of Evil Within 2.
I did not. I just played it a lot.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would stay up for hours playing the game where you shot certain squares in color ordered. It was very easy and satisfying. And I would stay up all night after maybe a dose of Dramamine. And so now that's his whole complete personification of me as a gamer.
That's my narrative, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's how harshly I'm judged here. I hope.
Well, I'm going to edit this favorably to my standards so
Just-
I look good and you don't.
Just make me funny. I know you can do it.
I don't have to do anything. You're funny on your own.
He's just schmoozing. I'd like to invite your audience to just spend. You need to make a video. A day in the life of Clyde. Is it Beatlesque? It's better. He'll stare at you. He'll nap. When he naps, he looks adorable. He has the face of a Labrador and the personality of a corgi. It's bizarre. Right now, he's staring at us.
No, he's itching himself right
He's
now.
itching. It's very creepy, unsettling even. But not in the horror movie sense. It's not exciting. It's just very, very boring and unsettling. That's what he does. I don't know. What else do you want from me?
That's it.
Am I done?
You're done.
I'm done. All right. Thanks for listening to this guy's channel. I mean, I'm sure you're all very nice people. Thank you.
They're not.
How dare you? You can't say that about them. I'm on the Google.
The Google? Like the actual Google?
The Google.
Really?
I've seen
Okay.
it. I've seen many gaming channels and their fan bases, and sometimes it's fairly terrible. I mean, I won't mention names, PewDiePie, Game Grumps. I think that you've got like a nice happening going on.
Happening. Okay, well, on to the next guest then. Bye! I don't know what to do. This is still going. I still have time to fill
Hello?
I don't know what I'm doing. It's still happening. It's happening. It's
Hello?
going, and I still need things to
Alex,
talk
can you hear
about.
Me? Alex, are you in there, dude?
Whoa.
You in there? You all right?
Is that Trav?
Sound like you're freaking out, man. Are you okay?
I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know.
I heard some voices coming from in here. Are you talking to anybody?
No, I'm just kind of ranting.
Yeah, well, that's not new. Are you okay though? I mean, you did the one by yourself with Rob. You did okay. What's happening now?
I think. Well, what happened now is that I didn't have any plan, and I just kind of winged it.
Man, you gotta get that Google Doc, dude. I've told you about the Google Doc.
The Google Doc is definitely helpful.
You can put words in it and then read those words. You don't even have to think about anything. It's great.
Yeah. Well, Pearl came in and she helped me, but like she always does. But Kulor kind of like warped in here somehow, and then he warped away.
I felt a cold breeze come through here. I was wondering if it was that Kulor.
Yeah, it was that Kulor. Yeah, he's crafty like that. I'm not sure how he does that, but
I missed him.
Yeah, he's weird. Oh, I'm glad you're here because now we have a real podcast.
Hey,
now the pressure's off.
We're on the rails. You got a real podcast.
The podcast veteran is here.
Yeah, man. You had Rob last time to get you through here. Get you helped out, and now I'm here.
That was the plan.
Good. You'll never be without a good podcaster in your life.
Thank God. Thank God. Because that's a lot of pressure. I don't like sitting here talking to myself.
Well, speaking of you talking to yourself, I don't know if you realize this or not, but after your podcast with Rob, you sent me a message and you're like, "Hey man, you mind I'm going to put this up to publish. You could check it out if you got time. If not, no big deal." I was like, "Of course I want to check it out. I want to see, I got half my name on this thing. I got to make sure he's not sending out just hate speech." And then I got on there and it starts out no music. I was like, "Okay. All right." So we dropped maybe we lost Kulor. Maybe the enigmatic cold breeze didn't make it to this one for some reason. Okay, trying something new, and then you talked for a little bit. Intro sounds okay. You're a little frazzled, but there's enough sense to be made in there. And then I get a little further into it, and there's no music off the top. There's just you talking, and then it's more of you talking, and then it's more of you talking. And then you set up something. You're like, "Hey, all right, we're coming up next. We got Rob." And then you just keep talking. And I was like, "Where's Rob? I thought he was supposed to be on here." I still don't hear Kulor. And it started to sound like a Crazy Man manifesto. I was like, what has happened? This guy's going completely off the rails. This is what happens when the robot deprograms.
Yeah, I had a glitch.
Yeah, I thankfully I messaged you and was like, "Hey man, everything okay?" And turns out you just had sent me only your audio, which made sense. But
yes, whoops.
Could you imagine if a few hundred people got a hold of that on the next morning?
It'd be pretty funny. I'd have to admit, it'd be pretty funny.
A lot of confusion.
A lot of confusion.
He was really drunk for that one. Jeez.
DrunkFriend, and his friend is himself. That's right.
Hey, it happens. But no, that was good. That was a good episode with you and Rob, and
Thanks.
Then I had to follow it up the next week because you got busy. So we're finally back together. We're back on the horse, as they say.
On the horse, and you've been on the horse with Caleb and Musty Hobbit, and I'm familiar with Musty Hobbit. I appeared on one of his podcasts talking about Chrono Trigger back in the day. That was, I think, last summer, and that was cool. Caleb I was not familiar with, so I was really interested to hear that he's part of a booktube.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that, it's real interesting because he's part of like a different community that I did not know existed, and I was very interested to hear about that. It was really cool.
Yeah. I would say he was probably more formally into that community.
Yes.
He's broken away from it in favor of gaming, but he still does review like all of the boss fight books and all that stuff. So he's still entrenched in it, but he really tries to bridge it over to gaming a lot more. But yeah, it's good stuff. Please check it out.
Right on. Yeah. Please check it out. Please.
Yeah. And then, following you a little bit on Twitter here and there, we've both been a little bit busy. I started noticing this name pop up, this Stas Drunk. What is this? What is Stas Drunk?
Well, It's only the most oddly specific joke that's ever existed in I don't know, YouTube history, maybe human history. I'm not sure. But this guy. Okay, so it started with the video called "Don't Judge a Super Nintendo Game by Its Cover," and it posted in March 2018.
Okay.
And I made a one-off joke about the cover of the game Aerobiz for Super Nintendo. Was it Aerobiz Supersonic or just Aerobiz? I'm not sure. But there's a guy in the background of the cover that's like at some sort of console station, like doing something. I think he might be like an air traffic controller or something, but he's wearing a suit and he's got very well coiffed. Is that the word?
I mean,
hair?
It is a word. Oh, yeah.
And he's got a big mustache and he looks like John Stossel. So I said, "Hey, who's that in the background there? Is that John Stossel?" And for whatever reason, that joke really got a lot of traction. Like, it got a lot of comments. It got a lot of laughs. I don't know why. I guess it's just one of those Mystery Science Theater type references where it's like, he's one of those guys you never think about.
I've never thought about him.
Yeah, well, he's existed for many, many years. He was on 2020 back in the 90s, back when Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs were the hosts. Mm-hmm. And he was always the annoying, like, give me a break guy, where he would have his own little segment where he'd like go after some like industry or some store or something like that or whatever. And it was always like over the top. And he was anytime he interviewed anybody, he was always super antagonistic. Like, he always took the opposite side of what the other person was trying to explain. And it was really frustrating to watch, and it made you hate this guy.
Yeah, man, he's like the mustache brother of Geraldo.
That's exactly it. Yeah, Geraldo is. I think he pioneered that technique. So yeah. Now Stossel has kind of followed in his footsteps, and so this guy, I ended up making. That joke made so much traction, and I was like so like taken aback by it. I was like, wow, people really dig John Stossel. So I dropped his name like in a couple other videos. I don't even remember what they are. I just remember, just making sure. I was like, oh, this seems like a good opportunity to mention good old John Stossel. Here comes this guy who is like so like obsessed with this joke that he decides to make an entire YouTube channel called Stossdrunk. And he's a very nice guy. His name is Critical Android, and he has his own channel and his own reviews and stuff like that. And I've been messaging him back and forth on Twitter. By the way, the cover was Aerobiz Supersonic. I just saw it. But he decides to message me saying he starts a Twitter account, and he messaged me saying, "I'm suddenly finding the need to clarify that I am not some obsessed John Stossel nut. I just find references to him so brilliantly comical because he's one of those perfect public figures that straddles the line between obscure and well-known to the point where he's exactly the kind of person Mystery Science Theater would reference, like Larry Zonka or Jack Klugman." And then he goes, "I'm 34. I grew up watching shows that my peers weren't, like Get Smart, 2020, Dateline, you name it.
Columbo."
And yeah, maybe Columbo. I don't know.
I can identify with this guy. I get it.
Yeah. And then he's like, okay, I'll never forget watching Stossel as a kid thinking, oh, hey, what the heck is with this mustached madman? Is he pro-consumer, anti-government, or just batshit crazy?
Yes.
Little did I know, he's all three. So he's always had kind of like a fascination with this guy to begin with. So he made this like comedic thing. It's both a Twitter account and a YouTube channel where it's John Stossel reviewing NES games, and his latest one reviewing DuckTales. And the title of the video is DuckTales Libertarian?
Wow.
Just saying the title, I can't help
it's
but
so
laugh,
good. It's so good.
It's so ridiculous. It's like,
did you
how
watch
did
the
this
first
happen?
one? Is Home Alone Libertarian? That was
yes,
his
it's Home
hit.
Alone Libertarian. Yeah, that's a shorter one. It's only 3 minutes. That one made me laugh too. I think the DuckTales one was his coup de grace. I think that really is his Magna Carta. What's the word? I can't remember.
Or whatever. Yeah.
His magnum opus. That's what I'm trying to say.
There it is. Yeah. There you go.
It's his best work. It's his finest work to date. It's really, it's like I don't know if it's just me, but I laughed really hard when I saw it, and it's one of the most oddly specific things I've ever seen in anything ever. What did you think of it when you saw it?
Well, the first thing I thought of was like, you've made it, not made it like made it, but like, you're doing good work when you get a really quality parody of your work. I think that's like a good sign. Like, they're not making fun of you. It's like, it's obviously done out of a place of respect and just to have fun. Like, I feel like if someone did that to me, they're like, they're making fun of me. That'd be the first thing I thought. So in your case, I think it's just really cool that's happening. But it is very obscure.
It's incredibly obscure. I'm blown away by it. I'm utterly blown away. Yeah, it's insane. And honestly, it's funny too. It's not just like weird. Like a lot of the tweets are like on point, well written, specific John Stossel humor, which I did not think was a thing I would ever say. So yeah, that's cool. Exactly right. That's a great observation, because when I read his tweets, I read them in John Stossel's voice, because he's got that like outlandish, like, give me a break, like that kind of like newscaster, like, I can't believe this, like that professional. I read all that stuff in his voice, and it just works. Like, I don't know how this guy knows this that well. I don't know if he's got like a huge stack of VHS tapes of 2020 episodes, and he's got like, he's bought like Hugh Downs' old suits on auction or something, or what. But if he's just a huge 2020 fan, but the guy's on point. He's my hat's off to the guy. He's incredibly funny. And
again, you didn't know this guy before, right? He just kind of comes out of nowhere and is like, "Hey, man, I made, I'm working on this kind of parody angle, and are you cool with that?" Kind of.
Yeah, he like how he let me know. It's like, I'm not some crazy person.
Which is exactly what a crazy person would say. I say lock your doors twice. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you never know. I'm rolling the dice. I think he's an okay guy. If he shows up, I'm just gonna play Hugh Downs to his John Stossel. That's what'll happen.
If he does show up in the middle of the night wearing his Stossel mustache and he's armed with a knife or something, you got to give him props for all the hard work he put into it. I mean, he parodized John Stossel on YouTube, Twitter, and somehow figured out where you live just to come do whatever a stalker does. I think really at that point you got to tip your hat. Just let him have it.
I'm telling you, the next time, if I ever go to a con or anything like that, I'm dressing as John Stossel. I think that's the way to go.
There you go.
I'm gonna go the suit. I'm gonna go the hair. I'm gonna go the mustache. It's just I think that's gonna be a big winner. I'm just gonna rant about libertarian ideals. I don't know what those are specifically. I'm not educated enough to know. I have an idea what they are, but I'm not smart enough to knowledgeable enough to know that much. But
that's bound to not alienate any of your base. I don't think anybody that would go to a con to see you would be surprised, but they'd be like, that's just, how he does when he's drunk. He starts spouting that Stossel nonsense.
Stossel nonsense. That's nonsense. Didn't. Okay.
Don't forget, on May 26th, as you're recovering from beer and hot dogs from your quarantined Memorial Day, my and Caleb J. Ross's new podcast, Tales of the Lesser Medium, that chronicles the first 4 Resident Evil games, hits your podcast feed. Please check it out.
Yeah, it's honest to God, and I'm not saying this just to suck up, it's really funny because those guys kind of riff on the ridiculousness of those games on a surface level. Like they just kind of go after, like, what if this was real life? What if it's a Mystery Science Theater kind of a treatment to the ridiculousness of the stories of those first 4 games. And as a Mystery Science Theater fan, I truly appreciate their comedy, their humor, their observational skills, and just their wit. It's very funny. You're gonna laugh when you listen to it, so I think you should check it out. What else is there? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, I've been busy. Yeah, I finished up some school stuff. I earned a PhD, which was pretty cool.
All right, hold on a second.
Yep.
Is that coming
Is
through
that a
on
slow
the mic?
clap?
No, that's not a slow clap. That's not a slow clap. That'd be super insulting if I just started going. Could you imagine? I just finished my
wow.
PhD, and you get one guy that's just like, way to go, buddy.
It's about time.
What took you so long? That's so freaking cool, though. That is like such a hard thing. Like, not many people get to say that. So, congratulations. It's super cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's thankfully it's over.
I was going to say
some time
you're
to.
probably glad it's over.
Definitely glad it's over. It is kind of funny though where my priorities are in life. Once I was done with it, I was like, oh, thank God, I can finally get back to making more NES friends. It's been a month. Yeah, it had been a while actually. I talked to you a little bit over the week and talking about some projects coming up, and you suggested some games, and I was like, yeah, I'll take tonight, maybe record some footage and relax and actually, play my Nintendo for the first time. And I realized I'd unplugged everything because I'd been using the computer I used for that for other stuff, and so I went to plug everything back in. It's just this giant mess of wires I've not touched in a long time. Looks like a big spaghetti monster threw up all over the back of my TV. And I realized I need to start labeling how things are plugged in on this stuff.
Yeah, I've got that down.
Yeah, I had no idea. So it actually took longer for me to get going again than it did for me to play the game I played. But
dang,
back in the saddle.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy to hear that. Because you were doing what I was doing, which was working way ahead and getting stuff scheduled. Whereas I have gone in the opposite direction, and I've got stuff. I don't have Tuesday or Thursday's video done. They're not written. I got to get those done. I'm not worried about it anymore. I used to think I would be like freak out if I got to that point. It's actually kind of strangely relaxing. But how did you enjoy having stuff scheduled way in advance like that? Was it weird because you would forget like, oh, it's this video?
Yeah, actually, I kind of like that. I kind of liked the surprise of, oh, it's Wednesday. What video did I make that's coming out? Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. People are going to be excited.
That is a nice feeling, yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and I'm 2 weeks away from I'm 2 weeks away from being behind.
Are you
guess,
nervous?
So to speak. Yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't be.
Because I don't, with all the other stuff I got going on, it takes me a long time to, we talked about it in a video I think with Pam, like how long our process is for each video, and I think mine was the shortest of everyone's, but I milk that for a week. Like that the 2.5 3 hours I put into a video is just chipping away here and there, so it'll take me a while to get back ahead of the game, but I'm hoping to get some, at the end of this graduation, and I got some opportunities at work where I think things might slow down for a minute just to take some time and get ahead of the game again, man. I don't know how you are operating on 2 videos a week, and they're like right in front of you. You're just staring them down. I mean, I don't even know, when do you come up with the idea for the video you're going to do? I mean, that's something I cook around in my head for maybe a week before I even play the game.
I think I decided last week I was going to do Alien 3 and Aliens, the arcade game, for Tuesday and Thursday. I really find it really fun to know that, like, I can do whatever I want, and it doesn't matter. It's just video games. Right. Like, this, I'm not coming up with a cure for cancer here. I'm just like, hey, this is just what I feel like doing in this moment right now. So when I think back to May 2020, I'm going to remember, oh, that's when I was playing Aliens or Alien 3 for Super Nintendo. So I really enjoy. I used to be super way advanced. I told you in Twitter, there was one instance where I wrote and finished 3 videos in one day, and I was wrong. I got the videos wrong. It was this was back in like 2015, I think. It was Death and Return of Superman on Super Nintendo, and again, that's a beat 'em up. It's really easy to get footage for. It's really easy to write for. It's like, okay, here's how many lives you get. Here's the levels. Here's what happens. Blah blah blah. Then there was Ninja. What is a game called? Ninja 5.0, I think it's called, for Game Boy Advance. It's one of those super expensive Game Boy Advance games. Again, it's an action platformer. Here's how many lives. Here's how many continues. Here's how many levels. Here's what you do. Here's what makes it good. Here's what makes it bad. Done. And then I did Little Mermaid for NES. And that game is as simple as games get. I mean, of course, it's it's designed for kids. I still thought it was good, though, for what it was. And I thought it was interesting to a certain extent. So, and all 3 of those, I was able to do those in one day because it's just like, okay, bing, bang, boom, done.
And were you already at your twice a week model? At
Yeah,
that point?
it was. I've been at that since I think fall of 2014. So,
Dang, dude. That's insane.
The thing is, though, is that that opened a window for me. I looked and saw what I did after that, and it was the Super Nintendo baseball games video. And that video was, I don't want to say it was torture, but it took a really, really, really long time. And that's one of those where you pick it, you write, you know, for you set aside an hour every Saturday, every Sunday for however many weeks or however many weekends, and you get what you get done, and then you just kind of move on. Holy cow, that took weeks and weeks, and then finally when it took time to sit down and edit everything, it was like, this is a freaking mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting games confused. I'm saying the same things over and over about different games. I'm reusing words. I'm freaking out. Yeah. So the reason I liked being ahead is because I wanted to be able to do those bigger projects. So I had the time to freak out about those. I like Little Mermaid for that reason. And I guess that's why I like Aliens. I like these arcade games because they're really simple. And they're still super fun. But how are you finding that with the stuff that you've done? I know you've done Davy's Big Daydreamin' Thing or whatever it's called.
Daydreamin' Davy.
Daydreamin' Davy. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I really rely on the randomizer, but I'll push things around depending on how long I think it's going to take. And your model is 2 videos a week, and when you did 3 in one day, that would have been a month knocked out for me. I wouldn't have had to worry about anything. That would have been great. You only bought yourself 10 days, so I think that's interesting. I have moved to the point now where I think a week-to-week thing with my job and everything else that's going on is maybe just too much. So I've sort of structured it so that any video that has a compilation of games, so if I do like a little franchise, like the Bubble Bubbles or the Goonies or whatever,
the Goonies one that just posted, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll skip a week before, so the week before those there won't be a video, and then that next week at least you're getting more games. And then for single games, I can do that week to week. So that's sort of how I'm trying to model it now, just because I don't want to feel pressured to do. I do enjoy it, but as soon as it starts to feel like a job, I'm afraid I'll
starts to feel like
lose
work.
Momentum.
You're like, no, I'm out. Yeah, I hear you on that for sure.
And I'm also worried about getting too relaxed with it. Like, all right, well, I didn't do one this week, and I'll let another week slip by, and then at some point, a month's gone by and I've not made a video, and then I don't want to get comfortable with that because I like this. So I want to feel a little bit of pressure so that I keep it going, but I definitely don't want to be overwhelmed. So finding that balance has been kind of neat, but I'm pretty happy with sort of the structure I've settled on. And you realize after, I know you haven't really missed any weeks or delivery dates for your stuff, but in the back of my head, no, not yet, which is incredible, honestly. You're really the only one that's going to be bothered by it. A large subscriber base might, for a day or two be like, what happened to the SNES Drunk? But I think in the end, that next week is just as good, once they see you back in the feed. If you're away too long, that might be disruptive, but, like you said, it's just videos about video games. It's not the biggest thing in the world.
It's not hugely important. I've learned that it's easy to put pressure on yourself to like get that stuff done on schedule, but after a while, it's like, wait, what am I doing? At least I get to that point where it's just like, this is stupid. Like, why do I feel so nervous about this? Like, this is dumb. Like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, why do I play video games in the first place? Why did I start this channel in the first place? I keep going back to that, and it's just to have fun. It's just to, shoot the shit and do all that sort of stuff. And
yeah, I got to ask though, with the way you've done this for so long and so many games, has the process of playing the game and jotting down notes and reviewing it and trying to get footage, has that really affected the way that you're able to enjoy games that you're not really going to focus on in the video? Do you find yourself rushing through games more just because you're like, okay, well, this game isn't going to be anything that I feature on my channel. It's not my priority, so to speak. Like, does it affect you in that way at all?
To be honest with you, it's affected my childhood nostalgia of certain games. I hate to say it, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but when I go back to something like Star Fox, for example, I loved Star Fox as a kid. It was just, I felt like it was one of those games I felt like it was custom made for me as a kid. It was just perfect. Like, it had the big Star Wars soundtrack. You're in a fighter ship, you're shooting lasers at bad guys and they explode. It was just perfect for me. I loved it. When I play it now, my analytical hat, it's hard to take it off. I'm just like, well, the frame rate could be better. And,
of course it could.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. And Secret of Mana is another big one that I loved because my brother bought that game when I was a kid. It was the first game he bought with his own money. And I remember watching him play it. I remember sneaking to play my own game. I couldn't save it. I didn't dare save it because if he found my own save on his game, he'd be super mad. But when he would go to a friend's house, I would play it up till I want to say Gaia's Navel, till that like big boss with the big neck in the cave. I would play till that point up until you're supposed to go into the witch's castle, I think. I love Secret of Mana. I really do. And to hear people like complain about it incessantly like really hurts. Like, it sucks. Like, and when I play Secret of Mana now, like, I can't help but notice like all the flaws with it. The hit detection, the fact that you have to wait so long between attacks and all that stuff, and the magic system's completely broken. I knew that when I was a kid. I was just like, wow, all you have to do is just press Y. Just keep pounding the Y button and wait till you're able to bring up a magic spell and just spam like crazy. Like, I knew that when I was a kid. I took advantage of that, but I'm just saying it's hard to take off that like analytical thinking and go back to really enjoying these games the way you used to. That kind of sucks. But what about you? Are you feeling that's kind of the same way with you?
I don't think I'm really as analytical as you are. In some sense, like I don't think I've gotten into the groove of picking apart every little thing that I need to talk about in the review. I sort of play the game and enjoy it for what it is in those moments, and I try to do as many things as possible in terms of just to get footage, like hang on the menu system for a little bit, try to get as many of the different pickups as possible just to show them off, read through the manual if I have it, but I don't really analyze it until I kind of sit down and start writing about it and thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, there was that part I didn't really like, and then I might, either look at the footage or look online to see, what some other people that played it had done. Like, maybe I was doing it wrong, and I'm like, yeah, that really does suck. That person was struggling with it too. Then that kind of is something that I'll focus on. So I think I'm still trying to come to terms with specifically how to review a game, but also I was telling a friend about this the other day. We were talking about reviews and how, they have a really hard time giving ones or tens. They just sort of, everything that they kind of rate, they put sort of in the middle. They're like, yeah, I usually will rate things between like a 4 and a 7 all the time. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like I'm kind of like that too. Like, I can find a charm in things that are considered bad. I can find things I don't like about things that are considered good. I feel like the point of my channel is not really to say a thing is good or bad. It's really just to show it off.
Yeah, like, hey, look at this game. And there is definitely value in that, absolutely. And I found that out myself, where I get tons of comments saying like, for example, Operation Logic Bomb, that game just dropped on Nintendo Switch, the online service, and I got a bunch of comments, a bunch of views of people saying like, hey, this is what this game is, thanks. Like, they're not looking for like opinions or editorial or commentary or anything like that. They just want to see like, oh, here's what this game's all about. Thank you. And I think that's really value. I think that does have value for sure. And by the way, real quick, you've got I noticed you've got the first video on your channel has passed 1,000 views.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no. Right now I'm looking at Renegade and Target Renegade.
Yeah.
As past cool. 1,000 views on your channel. Congratulations.
Thanks. That's cool. Yeah.
Why that video, I wonder?
I don't know. For a long time, Batman was like 200 ahead of the rest of them, and then I don't know if Target Renegade got shared around Reddit somehow. I don't know. That's
maybe Renegade the TV show came out on DVD or put on Netflix or something, and everybody's like, "Whoa, gotta see what this Renegade show's about."
Yeah, it could have been. I have no idea. I'm not.
That's
good
really
at figuring
cool
out
though.
why people watch my stuff, but yeah, that is cool. Awesome.
And Batman's at 884. That'll cross over 1,000 soon. And it's always really exciting. I'm really happy to see that. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on becoming a doctor, for God's sake. Jesus, you're smarter than all of us.
Nah, I don't know about that. Well, that's the thing about being a doctor. You're smart in one very specific narrow thing. Yeah. So
I think we are probably over time for our allotment with Buzzsprout, to be honest with you. I think we should probably wrap this up.
All right, yeah, true that. All right, cool. Well, that's been another episode. Next time it'll be more like the what you're used to. We'll get together, chat about stuff, do some emails, and maybe you won't be as frazzled over here by yourself starting out,
Oh God, thank God you're back. I don't know. I can't do another one of these by myself. It's too much.
I hear you, man. All right, well, that does it for another Drunk Friend podcast. Be sure to check out polykill.com to find more podcasts like this one. And
polykill.com, folks. Go over there right now. Right now. Stop what you're doing. Go there.
Please do it. There's more podcasts over. There's more of
There's
my
a lot
voice.
more podcasts.
There's so many more. A lot of them okay. Most of them decent. This one's great.
A lot of them okay.
Reach out to us if you have any questions or anything you want to add, say, any feedback. drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com.
If you'd simply like to help out the show, remember to rate and review us wherever you listen.
We're on Twitter as well. I'm at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNES Drunk.
Also, we want to give a shout out to Kulor for the podcast music, and he managed to warp himself into my microphone feed. I was ranting to myself on the microphone, and he just showed up. He's got those kind of skills. The song you heard is called Electric Starbounce, and you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page.
That's right. Go check it out. And be sure to catch us all on YouTube. And thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day.